reading of the case, and I just want to be clear, we just got it. The entire opinion runs over 70 pages. We're still digesting it here in the newsroom, but it would appear to set him free, so he'll be released from prison, and it would appear to accept some of the appeals that have been winding through the courts for many years now, and that his defense lawyers had often made that there were aspects of the trial that they argued were unusual, that brought in information and allegations that were not directly germane, or that is to say relevant to that charges that you were convicted of. And at the time, originally, that was considered okay. That was allowed by the judges based on different doctrines, including the similarity between those other allegations and the charges he was convicted of. Here you have the Supreme Court saying no, otherwise. And I think the big question the viewers may have is this over? Is this the end? It would appear to be the end, because this is the highest court in the state.
Now, he had served 2 years. He was up for parole in May, and they denied parole in May. It was a 10-year sentence. And according to some of the reporting here from Philadelphia, from the AP that I'm seeing, I know you haven't had a chance to go through this, and neither have I, that part of this overturning of the conviction was based on a prior agreement he had with prosecutors, which said that he could not have even been charged in the case. And recall that this was his second trial after a mistrial. So that conviction came after the second attempt to convict him by the prosecutors.
Exactly, and these appeals have been winding the courts on two major issues. That issue, which was a alleged prior agreement with Mr. Castor, who was the previous district attorney, and then these issues of what else was brought into the case. And so it's really striking, because this was considered at the time by many who follow these kind of cases of sexual assault as a kind of a breakthrough case where things that had fallen by the wayside or not been charged in the past. Indeed, that original agreement that you mentioned, Andrea, was controversial for many reasons, but was considered at the time the kind of lenience or deals that are struck in these cases. This conviction was considered a breakthrough, and so I think for people who followed this case or who saw it as a legal breakthrough for the alleged victims and survivors, this is an incredible blow here from the court.
And again, that district attorney, the former prosecutor, who had been controversial for being too lenient, for letting him off, when it finally got tried for the second time, the victim, Andrea Constant, had been at Temple University, where he was a beloved figure, was gone to Temple University, was a trustee, I believe, at the time, a very active alumni, and very active in the Philadelphia and Pennsylvania area. So his influence on that Montgomery County prosecutor potentially is what had been an issue. But as you point out, those were pretrial issues. These were all adjudicated at the lower court levels, I believe, before they were able to even be tried.
Exactly. Those were pretrial issues, and this is a complex, what lawyers call a procedural history. But to the point you raised, Andrea, I'm going to read briefly from this ruling, where the court says, "We have determined Cosby, quote, in fact relied upon D.A. Castor's decision." That's what you and I are discussing, the fact that the prior district attorney, Castor, had apparently made this agreement that this court finds to be valid. They say, quote, "We conclude Cosby's reliance was reasonable, and it was reasonable for D.A. Castor to expect Cosby to rely. And the record establishes," this is the court's view of the record of the factual history, that deprives Cosby of his, quote, Fifth Amendment right, which was D.A. Castor's intended result. And so then they refer to the controversy, as you say, and I'll just try to translate this into English. The court is saying that whatever you think of what happened, whatever you think of Mr. Cosby as a defendant, that the government, in this case the district attorney, did extend him this position, and so he relied on it, and that is the reason they would be vacating his conviction.
Well, just to reemphasize, that does not mean that what he was convicted of did not happen, that Andrea Constant's complaints were not real.
Right.
It just means that there was this prior agreement that he relied on, and that for technical reasons, if you will, a broad description, Ari, thank you for that.
I'm going to read the article, and then I got some stuff I found out about this that I have to um I have to really question this case sometimes. I really do. I really do have to have a lot of questions on my mind with a lot of things pertaining to this case. All right. Bill Cosby was released from prison Wednesday after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned his sexual assault conviction and barred him from being retried, upending the first high-profile celebrity conviction of the Me Too era. The justices ruled the 83-year-old comedian, who has served more than 2 years of a 3-year to 10-year sentence, has been denied a fair trial, citing an agreement struck with previous prosecutor that the justices said barred Cosby from ever being charged with the 2004 assault of Temple University employee Andrea Constant. Now, this is the problem sometimes when prosecutors, do things they're not supposed to do. They make mistakes, or they probably try to screw over Cosby. You try to screw over your client. Things like this will happen. Okay, things are not done right in the court case. They will throw it out. They will throw out, and the person will walk free. Especially, doesn't matter especially if they're guilty. If you did not do your due diligence in the courtroom, that person will walk free. Justice David N. Wecht, writing for the majority, said Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin R. Steele was legally bound by that decade-old promise and therefore should not have brought charges when the new evidence surfaced in 2015. Vacating Cosby's conviction, Wecht said, is the only remedy that comports with society's reasonable expectations of its elected prosecutors and our criminal justice system. People may be mad about this, but the reality is, if you don't do your due diligence and, as a lawyer, whether, a prosecutor, defense, if they let this slide, then prosecutors could do this all the time. So there's no real justice. The decision resulted in Cosby's release from the state prison in Montgomery County Wednesday afternoon. Maria Bivens, a spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, confirmed at 2:30 p.m. that he had been released. New photographers and TV camera people gathered at the front of the Cosby's estate in Elkins Park, where he returned home an hour later in a Subaru hatchback driven by an aide. The car stopped briefly as a supporter shouted good wishes to Cosby outside the gates. The former entertainer neither rolled down his window nor spoke to reporters gathered outside. He wore no expression. Cosby's release is on procedural issue that is irrelevant to the facts of the crime, Steele said in a statement. I want to commend Cosby's victim, Andrea Constant, for her bravery in coming forward and remaining steadfast throughout this long ordeal, as well as all of the other women who have shared similar experiences, he said. Rich, we still believe that no one is above the law, including those who are rich and famous and powerful. What you need to do is to start, having these lawyers' heads on the platter who screw up with their clients and screw up with making these promises that can have you legally bound. If you mess up, a person who has committed these crimes can go free. Spokesperson for Cosby did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Constant's lawyer said she was reviewing the decision and declined to comment on the case. Janice Baker Kinney, who was one of the 5 women to testify against Cosby, in addition to Constant, said she was shocked by the Supreme Court ruling. It's going to take me a little while for this to set in and realize what's happening because I'm stunned, she said. Baker Kinney said she keeps in touch with several other women who have accused Cosby of sexual assault and considers them close friends. We still have a great support system, and we'll get through this same way when we first came out with our truths. Why didn't you come out earlier when he wasn't as famous and powerful? That's what I want to know. Stuart Rand, who was one of the lead prosecutors on the case and has since left the district attorney's office to work in private practice, said Wednesday's ruling does not change the fact that the jury decided Cosby was guilty. The jury came to the conclusion to convict him, and nothing, as far as I can understand, about the opinion by the Supreme Court changes the fact, he said. It doesn't matter. The man is free. Say whatever you want. It was bungled. The case had, and I'm going to read an article that said a timeline that has me looking some of these women sidelined with a side eye. I'm looking at them that way. The case had a complicated history, began in 2005 when Constance first reported the alleged assault to the office of then Montgomery Court District Attorney Bruce L. Castor Jr., who ultimately declined to file charges. At the time, Castor said he was not confident her allegations would hold up in scrutiny in the criminal court, but he maintained he struck a non-prosecutional deal with Cosby to compel him to testify in a civil suit that Constance had separately filed against him, hoping that at least she could find justice in civil court. No evidence has been presented that this agreement was ever memorialized in the writing, but Castor has previously cited news release he issued on the decision 2005 as binding on all prosecutors who succeed him. Castor's successors reopened the case and charged Cosby in 2015, just days before the 12-year statute limitations expired, and amid a barrage of new accusations from women across the country. Experts from Cosby's disposition and the Constance civil suit were ultimately used against Cosby at a trial in what the High Court Justice described Wednesday as a violation of his constitutional rights and due process. When a prosecutor makes an unconditional promise of non-prosecution and when the defendant relies upon that guarantee to the detriment of his constitutional right not to testify, our criminal justice system demands that the promise be enforced, Reck wrote. And that's what happened. He didn't follow through on that promise, and now Cosby is free. That's it. You can't, there's nothing else you could say. That'd be mad as you want. But that's how it goes down. These type of screw-ups will have people walking. That's just how it is. Now, let me look at the other article I said I would let you guys see. Hold on. Because this stuff had me just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So here we go. Now I'm going to read this whole thing. All right. Let's get to the timeline. All right. Starting at November 2002, Andrea Castan, director of operations for the Temple University's women's basketball team, allegedly met with Bill Cosby. Constance claims that Cosby, who had been a member of Temple's track and field and football teams, assumed a role as her mentor. All right. January 2004, according to Constance, she visited Cosby at his Cheltenham, Pennsylvania home to discuss career advice. And after allegedly, according to a civil lawsuit she would later file, giving her herbal pills to ease her anxiety, Cosby touched her breast and vagina area, rubbed his penis against her, and digitally penetrated her. January 13th, 2005, Constance had since moved near Toronto to study massage therapy, accuses Cosby of inappropriate touching, groping her breasts, and placing her hand on his genitals. To Canadian authorities, Cosby's lawyers called allegations utterly preposterous and plainly bizarre. January 27, 2005, ABC News reports that the interaction between Constance and Cosby, who at this point cooperating with investigation, might have been consensual. Oh boy. See what I'm saying here? February 10th, 2005, Tamara Green, a California lawyer, appears on Today's Show and alleges that Cosby drugged and sexually assaulted her in the 1970s. Green tells Matt Lawyer and that Cosby, who had given her pills to combat fever, drove her to her apartment and began groping and kissing her and touching me and handled me and taking my clothes off. According to Green, Cosby left $200 bills on her coffee table afterwards. Cosby's lawyer issues a statement. Ms. Green's allegations are absolutely false. Mr. Cosby does not know the name of Tamara Green or Tamara Lucier, her maiden name, and the incident she describes did not happen. The fact that she may have repeated this story to others is not corroboration. February 17th, 2005. Citing a lack of evidence, the investigating district attorney in Montgomery Court, Pennsylvania, announces he will not act on Constance's accusation and bring criminal charges against Cosby. March 8th, 2005. Constance files a civil complaint against Cosby. The 5-count lawsuit charges Cosby with battery and assault and asks for at least $150,000 in damages. 13 women who allege similar experiences as Constance and Green are mentioned in court papers as Jane Doe witnesses. May 2005, in Constance's civil lawsuit, she alleges the comedian gave her 3 blue pills, which he said were herbal medication. Cosby lawyers, however, issue a court filing and attempt to clarify that the comedian merely gave Constance 1.5 tablets of Benadryl. June 2005, Jane Doe 5 goes public. Beth Ferrer claims she was in a relationship with Cosby in the mid-1980s. One that ended when he allegedly drugged her coffee, and Ferrer woke in the car. My clothes were a mess. My bra was undone. My top was untucked, and I was sitting there going, "Oh my God, where am I? Where am I?" I was so out of it. It was just awful. February 2006. While in the midst of a civil lawsuit, Constance sues one of Cosby's lawyers and the National Enquirer for defamation. Cosby had spoken to the tabloid the year before, and Constance claimed the interview defamed her as it intended, or knowing it would injure her. June 2006, Philadelphia Magazine interviews another witness to Constance's lawsuit, Barbara Bowen. Cosby threw me on the bed and braced his forearm against my neck and attempted to disrobe me himself, she said in another Philadelphia interview later that year. I can still remember him messing with my belt, and I was screaming and crying and yelling, begging him to stop. November 2006, Cosby settles with Constance. Terms are not disclosed, and none of the 13 other women testify. Why not? If somebody rapes you or violates you, you're moving heaven and earth to make sure they go to jail. December 2006, the following month, People magazine publishes Bowman's account of several assaults. It was in the hotel room in Reno. Claims Bowman that Cosby assaulted me one night in 1986. He took my hand and his hand over it, and he masturbated with his hand over my hand, says Bowman, who, although terrified, kept quiet about the incident and continued as Cosby's protege. Because, she says, who's going to believe this? He was a powerful man. He was like the president. It's 1986, and racism is still ripe and fresh. I doubt. I'm sorry. This is a white woman, a black man. I'm sorry. It just doesn't compute. Racism is still, is just as strong as it is now. But even back then, 1986, I'm sorry, a black man get accused of that. Yet, Cosby would have gotten checked. Before long, she was alone with Cosby again in Manhattan townhouse. She was given a glass of red wine, and next thing I know, I'm sick and I'm nauseous and I'm delusional and I'm limp and I can't think straight. And I just come to, and I'm wearing a men's t-shirt, and that wasn't mine, and he was in a white robe. Same People article reports that 3 of Jane Doe's from March 2005 accepted cash from Cosby for years, and 2 others began consensual sexual relationships with Cosby. This is why it's very hard. You can't take these. How am I going to take these women seriously? Okay? You taking cash from your rapist? I don't. Come on. This was December of 2006. February 2014. Katie Baker of Newsweek, Whitaker's former employer, interviews both Green and Bowman about the alleged assaults. Bowman tells Baker she was disappointed in the settlement, and Green recounts running into an accosting Cosby in Las Vegas, yelling rapist, liar, asshole. While Cosby doesn't issue a statement regarding Bowman's claims, his publicist responds to Green, "This is a 10-year-old discredited accusation that proved to be nothing at the time and is still nothing." October 16th, 2014, comedian Hannibal Buress does an extended exhibit about the rape charges in Cosby's hometown of Philadelphia. Cosby has fucking smugglest old black man public persona that I hate, Buress says. Pull your pants up, black people. I was on TV in 1980s. I can walk down to you. I could talk down to you because I had successful sitcom. Yeah, but you raped women, Bill Cosby. So brings you down a couple of notches. A clip on the set of goes viral after being posted in Philadelphia Magazine. November 10th, 2014. To battle the bad press, Cosby's PR team launches an online meme generator. Twitter is immediately inundated with references to the rape claims. November 13th, 2014. Inspired by the reactions to Baressa's bit, Bowman pens up an op-ed in the Washington Post titled Bill Cosby Raped Me. Why did it take 30 years for people to believe my story? She notes that only after a man called Bill Cosby a rapist in a comedy act last month did the public outcry begin the earnest. November 15th, 2014. Cosby's asked about the various charges on NPR's Weekend Edition, but stays silent. His lawyer later posted a statement saying Cosby won't dignify these allegations with any response. November 16th, 2014. An accuser, Joanne Tarshish, alleges that Cosby drugged and assaulted her on 2 occasions in 1969. As more and more of his rape victims have come forward, all telling similar stories, Tarshish says the time is right to join them. You waited all this time? November 17th, 2014. Linda Jo Trads, a former waitress at Cosby's Cafe Figaro, writes a lengthy Facebook post accusing the act of trying to drug her in the early 70s. She says the incident occurred when Cosby drove her home one night. He drove out to the beach and opened a briefcase filled with assorted drugs and kept offering me pills to relax. When I declined, he began to get sexually aggressive. I wouldn't take no for an answer. I freaked out and demanded to be taken home. November 18th, 2014. On Entertainment Tonight, supermodel Janice Dixon becomes the next woman to be accused Cosby of sexual abuse. Wow. Saying the comedian drugged and raped her in 1982. She recalls Cosby giving her wine and pill, which he told her were for her menstrual cramps. Before I woke up in the morning, the last thing I remember was Cosby in the patchwork robe, dropping his robe and getting on top of me. And then I remember a lot of pain. The next morning, I remember waking up with my pajamas off and there was semen in between my legs. Dickinson alluded to the next event in 2002 memoir and later told Howard Stern she asked to change the text to show Cosby in a better light. Why would you do that? I don't. Why would you change that story? If he did this to you, why you want to change it? That's what I'm thinking about. And these women having relationships with him, getting money from him. What is this? There's going to be a lot of great content for stand-up this summer. What do you mean by that, Flip McCooper? This is I'm just looking at this like how you're retracting stories, you're taking money from your rapist and having relationships with him. This does not make any damn sense at all. It doesn't. Okay. Netflix indefinitely shelves the Bill Cosby stand-up special that was to air Thanksgiving week. November 19th, 2014. Nearly all remnants of Bill Cosby vanished from the airwaves as TV Land pulls all Cosby Show reruns from the schedule. And NBC scraps the sitcom it was developed with him. The Associated Press releases. There's a lot of information here, but you can read it for yourself because a lot of people are probably going to trail off. And that's about it. But a lot of this is just like, it's a lot of bungling on the prosecution side. He made a legal promise, and that's why he's free. He didn't honor that legal promise. So you really can't get mad at Cosby. You get mad at the prosecutors. And I'm sorry, but I don't take some of these women seriously. I don't. All right. Do I believe Cosby did these things? Yeah, I do. Okay. I can't say he's innocent. And I can't be by his side either. I can't be like hooting and hollering and rooting for him. I can't do that. With all the facts and the evidence, I can't. All right. That's about it. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later.